Hey guys, I'm back. Promised this video. I did one of my big Marabou articulated streamers with the deer hair on it. I really like these flies. I love how they look in the water. I love how they move. I love the action they give you. I really enjoy tying them even though they make a mess everywhere. I mean, I get Marabou, I get hair, it's all over here. So what we got up here for us is a 6-inch articulated with a size 2 on the front, size 4 on the back articulated streamer. It's Marabou. It's got some bait flashing emulator in there. It's got some rubber legs through it on the front and the back, and then of course the deer hair. Yeah, so you got almost a wedge shape to it. It's going to be a lot of kicking action in the water. So it's a long video. Hope you guys really enjoy it. I'm going to try to get a video out there here soon with me fishing it and see how we can do. Hopefully we can catch us a big smallmouth, big largemouth. I don't know. Around here I could hook into a muskie. Who knows with this thing. But we're going to get that going. Guys, watch what's up. Okay, so for this fly, I'm going to use, of course, articulated. Got 2 hooks on it. I want to use, of course, on the front, I'll use a size 2 bass bug salmon fly from Saber Fly Hooks from the Fly Shack. Love these hooks. And then I'm also going to go with the size 4, the same kind. So we'll start on the back. Hook dug out here. Okay. Get into the vise. Make sure things tighten down here. And then we start. I always start about 3/4 of the way back and just wind this on there to get this thread started. And come back forward on it real good and tight there. And we'll trim out that. Kind of angle this just a little bit more so you guys can get a better look at what I'm doing. There we go. Center that up a little bit. Now for this, we're going to sit there and use both chartreuse and white Marabou. These are of course 2 different brands, but they both work really well. So I'm going to start on the top with my chartreuse. I'm just going to grab a little clump of it here, pull it out, and bring it up onto the hook. Just kind of setting it where I want it to be, the length of what the tail would be. And then just kind of tie it down a little bit. A few wraps. And then trim that out. Straighten it up. Come back forward. Just to kind of lighten it down there a little bit. Then we're going to rotate. This is where having a nice rotating vise comes in handy. I'll just flip it over. And I'm just going to go into the bottom with my white Marabou now. Find me a small clump of it, just even 1 or 2 feathers, get the right ones here. Don't like the way it looks. Pull it. Just one. Get this big guy right here. Okay. I'm just going to kind of lay them right in here. And kind of pull them through. And then tie them down. Few loops to hold it in place, and then trim that big section out. Get it out of the way, kind of clean up here. Rotate it back around to the top. Make sure everything's kind of even. Come right back up in here. Quick wind forward, quick wind back, because you want this to kind of hold down. Let that flare that tail up. And then, going behind that, and I'm going to use a little bait flash emulator here. I'm just going to grab a handful of strands out of there. It's kind of spread out here so I can see it a little better. Just going to reach in there, grab me a small clump of it, pull it out, trim it off. I'm just going to go right in here, kind of line that up where the two come together. We'll wrap that around there like so, tie it in here. This is going to give me a little bit of flare in there. See, kind of flare up in there. Then I'm just going to do the exact same thing on the other side. Come right in on the other side. About an equal, about some bunch in there that way. And then just tie it in. Kind of pull it through so anything loose comes out. I'm just going to give you a little bit of flashback through there. And then come up here where I've got that tied down at. And I'll just do the exact same thing. Grab me a few pieces of marabou over here. We'll cut these off a little bit more before I even put them on there this time, because that's a big clump. Half, I think. There we go. Get some of those shorter ones out of there. Just come right in here like so. Tie them down. And just do the exact same thing, flip it over, pull it forward. You know, keep everything kind of pulled back there. Kind of keep stroking it towards the back as you go. Give me another clump of the white out here. Lay it right in there and stroke it through. Just kind of keep that hook exposed as much as we can as we do this. Let me tie that white down in there. Exact same way. Stroking everything back a little bit as we do it. There we go. And then turn it back over. Trim out a few of these strands that are kind of sticking up there out of the where we don't want them. As you can see, our body's kind of filling out a little bit more. Go right back in there with a little bit more of our flash again from both sides. This time we'll kind of thin it down just a little bit more. Tie it in. Go to the other side, do the same thing. Just kind of stroke everything back to kind of keep it laying back the way we want it. And then here, I'm going to take a smaller clump. I don't need quite as much going back over top of that. So we're just going to kind of come right up in here, straight up here to the front of it. Too quick, we'll tie down here. Let that lay there. Trim out what we don't need. Get that trimmed out there. There we go. Roll it over real quick. A small clump of marabou going on there this time. This here too. Right there at the front. Stroke some of that stuff out because I got some loose strands in there. Here we go. Trim that off just a little bit. Just lay that down right on there. Just enough to kind of catch it some and tie it in. Lay it down on there. Make sure it's even. Flip it back up. So just kind of keep stroking it to the back there. Now, here, gonna get that stroke through there. Just kind of keep them fouling around the hook a little bit. Make sure everything's good and evened up. You can even get your fingers a little wet. I keep a sponge with water sitting over here on the side, and I'll kind of let you stroke everything back a little bit. Keep it in shape. Get your bait fish emulator. Like I said, it ain't a big clump, just 5 or 6 strands of it. A little bit of flash in there. First on one side. Stroke it back, kind of let it lay back there. And we put a little bit more on the other. And now, for a little added extra dimension in this, you can add some kind of crazy leg in there. You know, you can either go with a white. I've used this yellow in a couple in mine. Or even to get some big contrast in there, I'll even use this green. All of them work pretty good. I think on this one, I'm actually going to go with the white this time. And you'll see it come like this. And normally what I do is I just grab 2 strands. Snip off there, snip off down there, and then I just lay them in there like so and tie them in right up here. Get them going there. Put the 2 strands on each side of it that way. You split it down through there, then just wrap it up. Make sure it's down good. Pull it down tight. And we just tie it off. And I know I'm only doing just a few wraps on there. Kind of stroke everything back to the back again. But what I am going to do is at this point right here, to kind of help hold everything down, I'm just going to take a little bit of super glue. Just kind of wet that down there. It'll kind of help hold it all that way. Just a little bit to kind of help it. Get it in there. Just let that dry. And while I'm letting that dry, I'm going to get me a little bit of this 15-pound Power Pro braided. And I'm just going to snip a little bit off there. About, I usually go about 8 inches of it. Feed it through the hook eye while it's still on there. Gives me a pretty good little section there. Pull that one out of the way. And then we'll reach down in here and we'll get our size 2 hook for the front. Get it mounted in there, down tight. Yep. Get our thread started about the same spot. Get it going there. And we take our hook for our back hook there. What we're going to do is we're just going to feed a few beads on there. And what I did is I got this thing of just glass beads, fairly cheap at like Walmart, Hobby Lobby, somewhere like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to feed about 4 on there. They're not very big, and they're just to give a little bit of extra in there, help kind of protect that connection that we're going to have, that braid through there. And I'm using a green, so once I get them on there, I'll hold them up and let you see it. Because I'm only going to put about 4 or 5 on there. They're not very big. They're just going to kind of help that connection stay. Less chance of that braid getting even frayed even some. You can see, not very big beads. There's only like 4 on there. I'm not going to set this too far back. Just enough to keep them from wanting to hit each other. So it's going to go about there on it. So I'll kind of hold that up here out of the way for a minute. And I'm just going to make a few quick wraps this way towards the back with it. Once I get that to there, I can then take and just pull it up a little bit. And I'm going to use this clip here on the back, if I can keep hold of it this morning. Just kind of clip that down. And then what I like to do is I actually like to feed this through the hook eye, this braid, since it's not very big. I'm going to take up a lot of space in there. Feed it through, pull it back, and then tie it down there. Just wrap back all the way to the front, all the way to the back. If you got any little bit left over there, just take and clip it out there. You can see I got a couple of strands still hanging up there, so we'll just clip them out. What that's going to do is this is going to help hold that and not let it slide back out of there. Now it's secure. It ain't going anywhere. Now we're just going to repeat the process. Starting on the back. Get us a long enough set of a few green ones here first. Make sure they're going to want to lay all the way towards the back of that. Just kind of get them setting right over that. So lay on top of it there. That extra, kind of pull it back. Now we'll flip her over. Like I said, we're basically repeating the same process right now as we did on the back. Back up to the top. Get our little bait fish bait fish flash there again. Put a few strands of it on there. And I use this Marabou for these because it's going to give me a lot of movement. It's going to give me a lot of, it's going to make the fly look a lot bigger than what it's actually weighing. So casting it won't be that hard. It's not going to add a lot of weight, but when it's in the water, it's going to undulate and move, and it's going to give the impression of something alive that way. Get that all tied down tight right there. But the downside to messing with this Marabou is it all just wants to fly up in your nose and make it itch and makes you want to sneeze right in the middle of filming. Cut my thread, but luckily I was able to get back on there real quick. Get back straight. The head of this thing over. Back to that bait fish emulator again. And it's just giving me that little bit of, almost looks like that lateral line. Adds a little bit of flash to it when it's in the water. Attractant to just to grab their attention a little bit more. Okay, we're going to do that one last time with the switching off of the Marabou to finish up the main body of the fly. And then we'll get our head made for it. And we got that last little bit of white Marabou now. Back to the top. Brush everything back out of the way. Kind of make sure everything's in there tight a little bit. Yeah. And just like on the back, we're just going to take, we're just going to put a few of the rubber legs in there. We're just going to do it the exact same way. Just a couple of strands of the silly legs. Trim off this end. Go down to the other end, trim them off there. Then just tie them in. Right there at the top. 1, 2. Pull these back this way. 1, 2. Just to kind of help hold all that there. Come up there. There we go. Now comes the fun part. We're going to start on the head of this fly. For the head of this fly, we're going to use both chartreuse, deer belly hair, and then white deer belly hair. Get those beads over out of my way. So I'm going to start on the top, just like before. I'll get the deer belly hair out of here, lay it over to my side here. Get my garbage can out and ready, because this is when the mess starts. I'll grab a clump of it and cut it off there. Now, what I'm going to do right now is just kind of pull out anything loose, get it all out of there, kind of thinns out the bottom part of that. And a lot of times for this, you can actually comb it out a little bit too, but I seem to have misplaced my comb because luckily you all can't see it, but my desk is a mess right now. Just lay this on there, right there at the end of that. Can even actually, that's a little bit longer than what I want, so kind of grab a hold of that. Get my heavier duty scissors for cutting deer hair. Just trim a little bit of that off, shorten that up just a little. That was getting way too long back through there. So I'm just going to lay that on there. I'm kind of spread it around the top, let it kind of lay out. I'm just going to make a couple of quick wraps to catch it, pull it down. It's going to flare it up a little bit. That's okay for right now. Now, make sure that looks pretty even. Point that a little bit better. I bumped it. Let's get that back there. We'll flip it over. Just going to do now the same thing with the white. Pull me up a little bit here. Down to the very base. Trim it out. Pull out all the loose. To also thin it out a little bit. And all I'm doing is I'm just kind of going in there and just kind of pulling out. And that's just getting some of that under fur out of there. Keeps it from being so heavily clumped. I'm just going to lay that in there. Get it about even. Trim that off just a little bit. It was a little long too. I'll lay it in there. Two loose wraps here. I want the loose wraps on this. And then we'll just kind of pull it down tight. I'll just kind of flare it there where I want it. Give it a little quick tug. And we'll flip it back over. We'll make sure I'm even on top and bottom. Pulling it all back out of my way now. And then tightening down my wraps. To kind of help hold everything. Pull that back a little bit, make a few wraps towards it. To kind of help hold that down a little bit better. And I'll just kind of wrap through those. Okay, that's now made my collar. Got it where I want it. Okay. It's got my collar the way I want now. Let's kind of straighten that up there a little bit. There we go. It's laying a little bit straighter. Just kind of smooth it back, push it back a little bit with your hands. Just kind of get it thinking the right way. Now, go in there, We're going to repeat this as far as getting us a clump of the hair out. You know, you can take a pretty decent little clump here. What I'm going to do this time, once I get all that under fur pulled out, you know, I'm not going to worry about trimming it up even, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it halfway, and I'm just going to wrap through there. I'm putting this right up against the collar. I'm just going to pull it down after I make my 2 quick wraps. It's going to stand up what I want, okay? So it's actually going to spread it out a little bit. Then I'm going to flip it back over. Repeat the process with the white. Halfway. I said 1 loose, 2 loose, and then just pull it down and watch that hair flare up to where you want it. Okay. Flip it back over. And what I do, I will then take a hair packer. And I like these little ones that almost look like a little clip here. I'll get in there. I'll use that to kind of push that hair back a little bit. Kind of help point it on there. Then I'll pull it all back by hand. Make 2 quick wraps in front of it to kind of hold it where I want it. A quick loop through that to kind of hold it down a little bit better. Push it forward. Okay. And we're just going to repeat this a few times. Pack that as tight as we can on that head, so we can have a good solid head for doing what we want. Just repeating the same process. Down tight, let it flare out. Try to keep everything kind of cleaned out of it best I can. Hard tuck down. And what we're going to do is just going to have a nice big hairball making process there. Try to keep everything good and even. Sitting where I want it. And I'll just kind of keep pushing it back there as I do it. Now I don't take big clumps here. I found when I take big clumps, I usually mess something up and I don't get it laid in there right. Be careful because I want to spin on you a little bit sometimes. I kind of have to hold it. I kind of manipulate it a little bit, make sure I'm getting it, keeping it fairly even on the head. Right up here on the end, I'm putting very thin amounts. Not even probably even a pencil width going up there. Trying to get that hook head of the fly just packed as as tightly as I can in there, just to kind of give it a good dense head for what we're going to be doing. Get that good push with our fingers here now. Keep that all working through that. And we'll just tie that off. Tug down. I'll trim around there. Now, what I'll do is I'm just going to clip a few of these off the front there that are kind of laying the wrong way. As you can see, we got a lot of hair packed in there. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a razor blade and I'm going to trim this up. And I start. You can either use your fingers and kind of bend it the way you want it to, or you can even get a tool like this that'll hold the razor blade for you. It'll just fit in there like so. We'll kind of manipulate it so it sits into the grooves like that. And then you can tighten it or loosen it to get the angle that you want. It'll kind of bend it around. You just start at the very top and just do a little bit at a time. You don't want to cut a big chunk out all at once. Kind of go around the body. You're kind of wanting to go, as you get going on the top, you want to kind of angle it a little bit so it kind of comes down to the hook eye from the top. And on the bottom, and kind of almost go flat. What that does is gives you a good solid base on the bottom. Turn this where I can see her a little bit better. Blade almost completely flat. Right across the bottom here. Okay, what I did, I know it's kind of hard to see in the video there, but on the sides, I kind of cut out a little bit of a flatter spot right there. That's going to be a spot for me to attach the eyes in. What I do is I'm just going to rotate it up. It's also giving me a chance to kind of clean up the bottom here where I can see it a little bit better. There we go. Now I've got a nice solid flat surface on the bottom here. Just kind of help run that thing true. Which I'll flip it over here in a minute so you can see it. But now it's going to take me a couple of red eyes. See them here. They're only, I think they're an 1/8. Let's see here. Oh, 5/32. They're from the Fly Shack. Listen, love this place. Great, affordable, easy. So these are their medium-sized 3D eyes in red. And what I do, I just take 2 of them real quick, so it's easy for me to find them, and I stick them on my hand. See, right there. Look, it's going to talk to you. Grab a pair of tweezers, like so, And I just start on each side. I just put a small drop of super glue in there in that flat spot that I carved out. I then use my tweezers to kind of grab the eye a little bit and lay it there where the super glue was and kind of tap it down. Okay. Once I do that, I then go over top of the eye and I'll just put a little bit of glue on it. And let it spread on there and dry up a little bit. As that dries, we'll set it up here. Kind of flip it on over. Look at this side here. See if there's any spot that needs a little bit of trim out. This has got one little strand that's kind of standing up in my way, so we'll get it out of there. There we go. Now, and with my first little drop, and what also that does is that'll kind of soak down through the hair and kind of help it all adhere to the hook. There we go. There we go. Now just a bit of super glue on that one, help hold it in place. Now, what I always do is always flip it straight up so you can get to the belly. And I come right in there and I just ran a bead of super glue up and down that belly, just to kind of help hold everything. Let that soak down in there real good. Then we'll flip it back up. As you can see, at the very front of this fly now, you got this nice little flat spot. Let's trim that back there a little bit. And trim this little thing. It's giving it, there we go. And then your eyes, go a little bit closer, are laying in there right where you want them. So this makes it a nice little all-around bait fish pattern, which you can tie in several different colors, of course. So that is the finished product right there. Get that off there. As you can see, got plenty of articulation. It's got a lot of movement to it this way, between just the marabou, the rubber legs in there, and that head's going to make it dart all over the place every time you give it a little yank. And of course, you can tie it in any size you want. I used the 2 and the 4 this time. I've tied it 6 and 8. I mean, you could even go down to a 12, a 10, a 12, whatever. You know, it's all about how well you can do it. It's just going to kind of change up, you know, the amount of marabou you're going to need, the amount of deer hair you use. You can upsize it, use it for musky. I mean, big smallmouth, big largemouth. You know, this is a good medium-sized pattern size for this pattern. Makes it almost about 6 inches long, roughly. So, going to have a lot of movement, a lot of action. Going to work really well for you. So this is the fly all finished up. I hope you guys really like it. Thanks.